Yo, what up? What up, Busters?
Every time.
Every time.
That's so
Welcome to the
funny.
BlackBusters Podcast, the best black movie review podcast in the world. I'm giving it to you, Drew.
In the world, Craig.
That's right. It's your boy Tone, aka Soul Tone.
Ooh,
Soul Tone.
I
And
like
I'm
that.
joined. You like that? Good, good,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you're feeling that. And I'm joined by my man, my bro, my
Yeah, man.
broski,
Yeah,
Mr. Andrew
man.
Tyree. What up, dude?
What's up, man? This week I'm going by Andrew. Caught up in the rapture of
Ooh,
love.
look at
Tyree.
you singing. Drew, can you sing?
I can sing, man. I can't. I can sing about as good as the young lady who played the daughter in this movie,
Oh,
which means not
wow.
not great, but
Wow.
I can get by.
Starting the episode with a full clip. Like you're
I can
totally
get
ready.
by. You stick me in the
hmm
back of a choir, I'll carry the tenors for sure.
I can't sing if I'm trying to sing, right? Like if I am playing a character or goofing around, I sing wonderfully. But the
Yeah,
moment I try to like sing, I
yeah,
just don't have that ability.
yeah. No, I had it. I have it. I wanted to be a singer when I was a teenager. I moved to New York originally to be a singer, and then
So
I
you can
met,
sing.
yeah, then I met folks who could sing, like
Ah, okay.
who could really like tear it up. I auditioned for American Idol. I stood in line for 4 days. Like I met folks who could sing, and I was like, oh, I'll do some musical theater. do some
Put me in the
karaoke.
chorus.
Yeah,
Have me
yeah,
marching out.
yeah. I'll take Oklahoma in the
Yeah,
choir.
exactly. We're talking about singing because today's episode we are reviewing Soul Men. Soul Men. Let me give them the tale of the tape. Soul Men, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Bernie Mac, Sharon Leal, also featuring Sean Hayes, Afion Crockett, John Legend. This movie came out in November 2008. It was a box office bomb. It had a budget of 40 million and it only did 12.3 million at the box office.
40
I want
million
to
is crazy.
I want to talk about this because this movie has all the fixings, Drew. I mean, you've got Samuel L. Jackson in 2008. You've got Bernie Mac in 2008. This movie is funny, but it's very forgettable. And so, was this your first time watching Soul Man, or had you seen it before?
This was my first time watching Soul Man.
hmm
And I'm going to give you two very distinct overviews on my experience.
I'm here for it.
I know why it bombed
Okay.
because upon first look, don't nobody want to see this shit.
You think so?
This is how I felt. When I looked at it and I saw Samuel L. Jackson with the obviously like fake cornrows, and I see Bernie, and they up there and they doo-wopping. This is not what I want to see. I don't want to see the Blues Brothers hacked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't want to see that. I watched it though, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I think the issue was you just couldn't get people to the theaters to see it because on first glance, it doesn't look like I want to get out my bed, spend my money, take my lady to go see this.
It's interesting because in 2006, Sam Jackson does Black Snake Moan. In 2007, he does The Cleaner. In 2008, he does Jumper. He does Iron Man. He does Lakeview Terrace. And then we get Soul Men, right? So Sam Jackson is in that like working phase of his career, right? Where he just starts really doing like just a lot of different movies. If we look at Bernie Mac and I look at Bernie Mac's filmography, in 2007, he has Pride, he has Ocean's 13, he has Transformers. So he's
Big movies.
really big, really, really, really big. And then in 2008, we have Soul Men. So what's interesting about this movie, Drew, is that we have Samuel L. Jackson and Bernie Mac in a movie together, cussing. And usually that would be the recipe for a fantastic movie. You got Sam Jackson and Bernie Mac cussing. You would think that this movie would be a lot bigger and memorable than what it is. And I agree with you. I actually enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed the movie. But I was like, why isn't this movie bigger? And it's because I think that as much as what this movie has that I like, it doesn't have enough of it, right? Like
Okay.
it almost is like somebody wrote the recipe but forgot like an ingredient that was going to make this movie pop. Bernie Mac is awesome in this movie.
Bernie
Sam
Mac is
Jackson is
amazing. I caught
he's
myself
awesome in
laughing
this
out
movie.
loud
Yes.
multiple times.
Why didn't this movie hit, Drew?
I'm
Why
telling you,
didn't
man.
this movie hit?
I'm telling you, when Samuel L. Jackson is an amazing actor, but in 2008, and I would say arguably even now, you don't see him as a comedy actor, even though
Mhm.
he's a straight man in funny movies. So he does stuff that's funny, but it's because he's being serious.
Mhm.
He's funny because he's being outlandish in a very serious way. This movie required him to be funny.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like the same way I felt when, Jim Carrey was trying to go straight, go serious, like I just don't see you having that.
Right.
I
Right.
don't
Right.
see you
Right.
having that. The premise is not as involved as most of his premises are. There's no heist, there's no crime, there's no violence, there's no any of these things, there's no action. It's just two old men on a road trip. And it's like that.
But
I don't
it's
really
but
want to
it's
see Sam in that.
but it's
Or
too
so I think.
specific. It's too I mean cuz again, you watched the movie and you enjoyed it much the same way I watched the movie and enjoy it. Like yourself, man, I was laughing out loud. There
Yeah.
were a couple of points where I was
Yeah.
like, but
Rolling. Yeah.
but it like even the laughs weren't like fulfilling or sustaining, right?
Okay.
Like I was
I didn't I
laughing,
Yeah, go ahead.
but it wasn't a permanence. Like I'm not storing any of these laughs. Like you've never heard anybody quote Soul Men,
No.
right?
No, because
Soul nobody saw it.
nobody saw it. But and that's I think also why I laughed, because I was surprised, is that like, oh, this is funny. But unlike you, I'll say I think it was well done. I think it had the perfect amount of everything. It was
Hmm.
so well done to me that even the performances I didn't like, I let slide.
Yeah, that's what's so odd. I mean, this movie, Drew, has like the full DNA of what's supposed to be a classic. And when you watch it, you're like, man, I wish I was watching it at a different time. And I wish there was a community of people that were watching it with me because joke for joke, line for line, performance for performance, this is not a stinker of a movie by any stretch of the imagination, but
Nope.
it has no community backing. It has like hardly any community equity, if you will, right? Like,
Yeah. When you told me about the movie, I was like, "What?" I was like, "What movie is this?" I had no idea.
right.
You text me, you said we're gonna do Soul Man. I was like, I don't know what this movie is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so odd, Drew. Like it's so odd because a movie with Bernie Mac and Samuel L. Jackson that has like virtually no community equity, no memes, right? Like, no gifts, no quotes, like, nobody's using it. It's almost like this movie just flew complete. I mean, and the dollars show it. Like what this movie did at the box office, I think is a direct result of the fact that, like, oh yeah, black people didn't show up for this, right? Like, just
Yeah.
didn't show up for it at all. And I wonder, and I'd be very curious in the comments for people to be honest and be like, did you see this movie? Like, did
Oh
you
yeah.
see Soul Men?
Yeah.
And there may be some people to be like, yeah, I saw it, I loved it. But like, hardly anybody remembers it. Hardly anybody talks about it. And I'm watching the movie and I'm trying to decide if that's right. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, is this movie good? Or do I just really like Bernie Mac and Samuel L. Jackson cursing and carrying on? So what
Yeah.
they're giving me is dope and I appreciate it, but it's not connected to any like larger narrative or story that I can kind of fuck with long term. Like,
Yeah.
is this just a single serve? It's like a single serving movie that was made probably because of the strength of who Bernie Mac and Sam Jackson were in Hollywood. But like, for some odd reason, it just did not take hold in the black guy,
Yeah, zeitgeist,
in
yeah.
black culture, the zeitgeist of black culture.
Yeah. I could even imagine two things. I'd be interested to know what else was going on at that in November 2008. I'd be interested to
Hmm.
know what other movies dropped. I'd be interested to know culturally. I mean, obviously the you had the housing market that crashed in '08.
Obama
I'd
just
be
got
interested.
elected.
Obama got elected. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what else was going on because I feel like maybe some things overshadowed it.
Let's take a look. So, if I look at domestic box office for November 2028, we've got Madagascar number 1, Quantum of Solace number 2, Twilight number 3, Bolt number 4, Role Models number 5, Four Christmases number 6, High School Musical 3 Senior Year number 7, the Changeling 8, Zack and Miri Make a Porno 9, Australia 10. Then we've got Transporter, Saw 5, Secret Lives of Bees, Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
Chihuahua, and then at number 15 is Soul Men.
I mean, Four Christmases is a top 10 comedy.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know if that's enough to like knock people from going to see another comedy. But what I will say is like I can even imagine like Samuel L. Jackson being pitched this movie and
Hmm.
him saying no. I can see like somebody
Sam
bringing the
doesn't say
script
no
to
though.
it that
Like
part.
if you look
Sam's
at
like,
his
I'm about to
filmography,
get Sam
yeah,
probably was just like, how much?
yeah. Sam
And who
doesn't
else
say
is in
no.
it?
Yeah.
Bernie Mac. Cool. He probably didn't even know what the movie was till he showed up. Probably just showed up. Was like, you want to wear these braids? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
All
Okay,
right, put the braids on me,
put the braids on me. Sure.
dude. Yeah. It's just odd. Like, that like this is this is like the rare, like I feel like this is one of the
Oh
rare
man.
misses. Like of all the movies that we've done, a movie as good as this movie is, being as unpopular as this movie is, really like kind of struck me. It's like a bit of an anomaly, right? Like it's got Mike Epps, it's got Affion Crockett, it's got Bernie doing classic Bernie shit,
Yeah.
Sam Jackson doing classic Sam Jackson shit, big white titties. Like it's got like, damn near, it's got everything, and it is utterly slept on.
Amazing.
Like even if people in the comments
Yeah.
say, "I love Soul Man," I'd be like, "You're lying,"
Yeah.
because the numbers don't show it. Then prove it. The numbers don't show. And
Prove it.
I know I
Yeah.
sound a little bit like a
Show me a
broken
Soul
record.
Man tattoo.
Nobody talks about this movie.
No, you're right. You're right. Nobody talks about it.
Right.
I mean, I turned it on like I thought you were tripping. I turned the movie on. I was like, "This is.
Right.
I guess we just gonna shit on a movie this week. I guess this is shit on a movie week because this is gonna be
Yeah.
trash." And I'm watching, and I'm
Right.
like
Right.
laughing.
Is this
I'm like, "Am I
good?
liking this?" I was talking to myself like, "Is this? Am I enjoying this?" It's like the first
Uh
time somebody touch your butthole.
yeah.
You like,
Pause.
is this amazing?
um Moving on
No.
from that. But no, but like I feel you, and I know we're spending a little bit of time just kind of talking about the movie,
Uh,
because I really
uh,
like I really was trying to understand,
yeah.
like, why doesn't anybody know about this movie? And then I started asking myself, Drew, I started asking myself, like, do I really like this movie? Like, this is how I imagine Beyonce fans are, right? And maybe to a certain extent, currently Kendrick Lamar fans, right? Or Drake fans,
Mm,
whatever kind of fandom it is, which is, we're such a fan of the artist that
okay.
even if the song isn't amazing, the power of their celebrity and the power of our fandom propels us past like any objective reasoning, and the song is hot even if it's not, right? The album is dope even if it's dope. And so I'm watching this, and I'm such a big fan of Bernie Mac and Samuel L. Jackson that I'm wondering, like, is this movie actually bad? And I'm just kind of convincing myself that it's good because I'm getting a couple of chuckles from Bernie Mac and Sam Jackson, or is this movie really good? And I'm struggling to understand why it's not more popular. This was the wrestling match that I had.
I think it's number 2, man. I think it's number 2 because I
Hmm.
also enjoyed it, and I have never had a problem being like, "That shit sucked."
Right.
Good actors, bad actors, I've never been had a problem being like, "You had a flop there,"
So let's get into a
like,
little bit of the review.
and I
So
really
there's a
enjoyed it.
soul band, The
I really
Real
did.
Deal, and it features Samuel L. Jackson as Lewis Hines, Bernie Mac as Floyd Henderson. Back in the day, they used to be in a super popular group with um with John Legend, if, if you will. The makeup work that he did on John Legend
Who's
was dope. But like, he kind of did the thing. And so these two guys, tried to
Yeah,
survive,
that's
through the
crazy.
late 70s. They have a falling out, and they kind of fall on not necessarily hard times. Samuel L. Jackson's Lewis Hines does. He falls on hard times. He does crime. He goes in and out of jail. But Bernie Mac's Floyd Henderson, takes his money and starts a car dealership and is making decent enough money for him to then eventually retire. And he's retired and he's bored and super unhappy. And then the John Legend character, passes away. He dies. And so an opportunity presents itself for our guys, the real deal. Um, it presents an opportunity for them to perform at the Apollo. And Bernie Mac's character is so bored that he certainly wants to do it. He goes on, meets and links up with Samuel L. Jackson's character. And it really just kind of becomes a buddy comedy from that point, right? Like Sam Jackson's character is reluctant. He doesn't want to go on tour. He certainly doesn't seem to get along with Bernie Mac's character, and that dynamic of them kind of hating each other at the beginning, really good. A lot of
So good.
motherfuckers, a lot of fuck yous, a lot of improv from Bernie, which was so dope and was hidden. And that's how the movie kind of starts. The movie starts with them, you know, deciding that they're going to, and also like Sam Jackson's character doesn't fly. So now this kind of becomes a road trip, and they kind of like start to hit the road. The movie starts great. Like the movie starts great. Mike Epps makes a cameo. He's pretty funny. We get probably maybe the origin of "fuck them kids," um, which might be the surviving meme from this, but people don't
Yeah.
attribute that to Bernie. They attribute it to Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael
Yeah.
Jordan gets the "fuck them kids" meme instead of Bernie
Yeah.
Mac. But
Yeah.
like the movie starts dope and it starts funny, and the premise makes sense. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I agree. I was waiting to see what this was going to be about. The fact that John Legend was in it but never said a word, never never had a line is just so
Yeah.
brilliant.
Oh, great.
They just green screened them all through the thing, and but yeah, that was great. It just we about to get on the road. The Odd Couple, you know, they did different things with their money.
Hmm.
Watching Bernie pace back and forth in the hallway when he's deciding to take the cut
Yeah.
that Sam Jackson's character suggests is just so crazy. And he goes back and he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna take it,
Hmm.
but now I'm about to go back to my nice hotel." And that
Yeah.
whole speech, eat a steak as big as your back. It's just so good,
Great lines, right? Like
just
great,
so
like
good.
great lines. And so now they're on the road and they do their first kind of like it looks as if Bernie Mac's character has kind of set up a series. Floyd Henderson has set up like a series of little kind of like gigs to kind of help them get back into
Knock
the
the rust
mix.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knock the rust off. The first one is in Phoenix, which is dope. It was a good performance. It falls apart because Sam Jackson runs out of air,
Well,
basically.
he had to fight the heckler, or the guy who ran up on
Yeah,
stage.
the guy ran up on stage. It's like literally like less than a juke joint. It's not even a juke
Yeah,
joint. It's just a
no.
bar,
Yeah.
right? Like, they're performing in a bar. But it's great. I love it. Like they both get laid.
Yes.
Which is dope.
The
They
mother
they
and daughter team.
they slaying snow bunnies,
Yeah.
which is great. Sam Jackson got the better of that.
Yeah.
And
Skiing.
now they're kind of like starting to thaw a little bit,
Well,
right?
here's
Like,
here's here's what I love about this first performance, and here's what really made me look up at the TV and go like, "Oh, snap." I didn't realize, or I guess I didn't think that these 2 guys would be doing their own singing.
hmm
Like, I thought they would do, like, have some voiceover, or, like, take some tracks for some old Motown guys. These guys went up there and sang their own song, and they did not they didn't try and sound better than they already did. They didn't try
yes,
and, like, put on a vocal
yes.
performance. They were just like, "This is how I sound singing," and they went for it, and I was like, "I love that."
That part worked because they sounded like old, kind of over the hill singers. And I think like if you had done the dub over with like better singers, then the whole thing kind of like falls apart. But the
Yeah.
fact that they're like not amazing singers, but good enough, and they've
Yeah.
got their choreography down, and their
Yeah.
choreography fits that of like a 70s band, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a good blend. They
I
they
love that.
look believable. They look believable as an act, right?
Yeah, because Sam is not somebody I expected on my bingo card to see, like, singing, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, if I had a
exactly.
bingo card of Sam's roles, I'm like, he's not gonna be singing throughout a whole entire movie, and so to see him do that was great.
And even when like the car is broken down at the side of the road and they start working out those steps, right? Like I love that because that always is great symbolism of like no matter how far we are apart or how long we've been estranged, we know the steps. We've done these steps so many times that it's almost like the steps is like the healing balm. Like if
Yeah,
we ain't got nothing else, we know to snap, turn, pop together. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, and so like even when they didn't have communication, they had the choreography and the
yeah,
choreography of these men who are 30 years removed from this life of them being popular. I saw the same thing happen. There was a Tribe Called Quest documentary,
mhm,
Beats Love Life. I forget the actual title, because like Q-Tip and Fife Dog were estranged for a period, like where they,
right,
I don't know if the documentary kind of goes into, they always had a closeness, but they were just kind of doing their own thing. And these guys had agreed to perform together at some like festival, and they hadn't been there for years. And it was the dress rehearsal, and the camera was still on them while they were doing the dress rehearsal, and you could see them hitting the beats, like hitting the marks. And it's just like, yeah, all these years have separated them, but the choreography, they've been on that stage, they've performed this song and those numbers so many times. And so seeing those guys doing that choreography on the side of the road is when you first start to see things thaw out a little bit, right?
yeah, yeah, and there are moments in there, well, all throughout the movie, but especially when they're angry at each other, that they let each other know, like, I still fuck with you.
Right.
Like, when Bernie Mac accidentally shoots the gun, and he's
hmm
like, "Are you okay? Are you breathing? You feel dizzy?
Yeah.
I never hurt you."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought
That's
about killing you
great.
sometimes, but I'd never hurt you.
Yeah. I mean, they've got an anger in them, but they love each other. And I think this movie does a good job of like not making them love each other too soon or too quickly, right? Um so like, they kind of get on the road. The next stop they have, they're performing even better. And I do like the song selection. These songs were actually pretty good jams, right? Like,
Yeah.
like they were
Yeah.
catchy,
And
they were
they were
performed well.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And so as they kind of road show it out, they start to thaw, and then we kind of get to the point where the movie gets a little wobbly for me, Drew.
Okay.
And that's when, they decide they've run out of money, and they decide that they're going to go to the home of, what was the woman's name again?
Odessa.
Odessa. And we find out that Odessa was Sam Jackson's girl who Bernie Mac had smashed, right?
Married.
Married, smashed, then married, right? And then broke up with. But she was kind of like one of the OGs, right? Like, I guess on the come up. And, they remember where she lives. They go to the house. She's passed away, and her daughter is there. And her daughter is played by Sharon Leal, who, from a singing standpoint, I wasn't super impressed, but I really did like this character. I did. There was a, for me, there was a charm to Sharon Leo's character, but this is when the movie like gets really wobbly for me. We get Afion Crockett in a performance that doesn't match his talents. It's you know
That was
what
a
do you
really great way to
yeah,
say it.
yeah. I mean, because
Good
it's
good
it's
good for you.
it's buffoonery,
Yeah. I
right?
mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's better than that, right? Like
I don't
he's
I don't
he's
know.
better than that.
I don't know. Can you
Okay.
tell me when you saw Afion Crockett in a movie where he wasn't buffooning or in his stand up?
Okay. So I'll give you a good point. Afion belongs in movies that's what the movie is about. Where the movie is ridiculous. And the movie is kind of buffoonery, and the movie is over the top. Like Afion is born for scary movies and Don't Be a Menace,
Don't
right?
be a menace. Yeah, that's what I
And
was
where
thinking.
like the whole thing is artificial sugar, right? Like, but as
Mhm.
much of it, the whole thing is high fructose syrup. The
Yeah.
whole thing is
Yeah.
designed to
Yeah.
be that.
Yeah. Yellow dye number 5.
The
Yes.
yellow dye number 5.
Yeah.
This movie was not that
Right.
until he shows up in it, right? Like
Yeah.
this movie has Bernie and Sam Jackson doing their thing, but it's not over the top, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are just some cursing ass characters, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That astronomically large titty in the first act
Yeah.
was
Huge.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. It's like, God damn, that's a lot of tit right there.
Yeah, man. It's
Um,
the aggressive amount of titty.
yeah, there's too much titty. The meat on that bitch, you can survive. It's like it's a lot of meat, man. Listen, you can chop that up. But like again, until you get to Afion character and his goons, the movie is not silly like that. Like,
Yeah.
and so to me, Afion's character actually takes away from the movie, and it
100%.
doesn't quite get back right.
And I think that's how he acts.
Right.
I think when you say Afion, and I don't know Afion, so I could be wrong. Afion, if you're listening, I apologize. But I
Mhm.
think that's how he acts. I think when you give him a script and you go, "Hey, you're supposed to be a thug who is not supposed to be taken seriously, but has nothing but bad intentions for this young woman," he goes, "Okay," and then he
Mhm.
just starts doing his shit, and you're
Right.
like, "That's not really what I asked for," but I'm sure he's connected enough to that was going to be his part no matter what, and they made it work. But
Mhm.
I don't think that that's what the writers wrote. I think
Right.
that's what he did with it, and it was terrible.
It's interesting. Whenever something like this happens, I like to blame the studio, right? Because this film is directed by Malcolm D. Lee, right?
Mm,
Who did The Best Man, Undercover Brother, Roll Bounce, Welcome Home Roscoe Jenkins, Best Man Holiday,
yeah,
like Space Jam: A New Legacy, like solid ass director.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand like who made the decision for Afion to coon like this in the middle of this movie,
Yeah,
right?
I can help you out, man. I'm pretty sure like the industry is so connected, right? Like
Hmm.
it's so it's so connected that like if you go like, hey man, well some people don't do this, but a lot of people do. If you go, hey man, like I owe you one, or
Hmm.
I got a movie coming up, I'm gonna put you in it because you did me a solid, or you hooked me up, or I've known you since film school, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you just muscle through that. You know what I mean? Like if Bernie and Afion are on the road together doing comedy, and he's opening for Bernie, and Bernie's like, "Hey man, I got a thing," because they smoking and
Hmm.
drinking one night, and he's like, "Man, I got a thing. I'm gonna put you in it, man. This is gonna be a big thing with Sam Jackson, the whole nine."
Hmm.
He's in.
Right.
No matter whether the studio's like, "This is weird," or the director's like, "This is weird."
Hmm.
If Bernie or somebody of Bernie's stature was like, "Yo,
Says
that's my guy.
Afion, you're
He's in."
in. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I'm not hating on Afion, but that character was disruptive to the movie, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
Because nothing about that whole situation, like, we're supposed to believe that Sharon Leal's character is a strong woman,
Right.
who's
Comes from a strong woman.
comes from a strong woman, is a strong woman. She would not have any time for him to be living like that. So that immediately doesn't make sense. The
Right.
relationship that like Sharon Leal has, Cleo Whitfield with like Lester, it does not make any sense, right?
Yeah.
There's no they like she's not weak. She's not weak.
No.
She's not weak. And in order for her to be married to or with this guy in his crew, would have to reflect like a weakness in her that isn't apparent in the character.
Right.
Avion's character is not a real person.
No.
Okay, he's not a real person,
It's
and
such
his
a good way to put it.
yeah, he's not a real person, and his crew is not are not real people,
No,
and
it's like they're
so
from a different movie, like you said earlier, like you alluded to earlier. It's
yes,
like they picked those guys up from a different movie, from How to Be a Menace, and
hmm,
they put them in this movie
yes,
with real people.
and it disrupts the movie. Like it literally lets the air out because even though Sam Jackson and Bernie are doing their thing, like Lewis Hines and Floyd Henderson up until this point come across as real people, like real former soul men who have history and baggage and things that they're dealing with. They've aged. They're having those conversations. And then the moment we get to Sharon Leal's house, like now we have all of these cartoon characters in the movie that are going to be with us until the end. And it's these cartoon characters that I think cast a shadow over what they were trying to do, which is who is Sharon Leal's, Cleo Whitfield's parents, right? And
Mhm.
so because we got all of this other popcorn shit happening with Afion and the crew, we lose the heart of this specific question, right? Of like both men think that, or rather Bernie Mac thinks that that could be his baby, right?
Right.
And
Right.
Sam Jackson, who we find out is and so this very powerful moment of connectivity and bonding, I think gets overshadowed you know, by the man-tan of this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that kind of shit. And so in this sense, the movie, even though it still has a little bit of heart, it loses a good portion of what would have been a very feel-good moment. And you would have gotten very invested in Sharon Leal's character. The shit happens so quick, I gotta barely hold on to try to care about what happens
Oh,
to
I was
her
just gonna
and these
ask you that.
people.
Yeah. Does that make you care about Sharon Leal's character less?
Yes, significant. I mean, because if they had slow played it, right? Again, like if I think about it, like we don't even really need Afion's character in this crew. We don't really need him for this movie at all. Like the guys could have came home and she could have been living there by herself, and she could have invited them in, and you could have had a chance to hear her play the piano, give her more time to sing a song, have a conversation about how she just loves music and just loves singing and all of these different type of things. Um, but what we get is we get like 40 seconds of that, and then immediately she gets invited to come with them to Memphis to perform, right? And even the real musicians in Memphis are like, "Who the fuck is this? I'm not playing with no amateur." And just at the bare mention of her mom's name, they're like, "Okay, we fucking with you."
Right.
That shit's very microwaved.
Yeah.
It happens so quick that we lose all of the heart that part was trying to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm guaranteeing you that that was a favor. Maybe to Bernie, maybe to somebody else, but
Mhm.
I do know Afion to be really a really good comic, and I'm sure that my gut is that they found something for him
Yeah.
in this.
Yeah. And so they perform at Memphis. It's like Sharon Leal singing or dubbing. The song is not as powerful as the others. Like we're trending kind of up, and then this song kind of like plateaus, but they're there and they're rocking and things are good. And then ultimately, they end up in New York. And then like weird stuff happens, like they end up in jail. Bernie Mac ends up breaking them out of jail. Afion shows up, and I hate when they put somebody in like a full body cast, but they're still out there fucking moving. Like these are the decisions that I fucking hate, right? He's in a full body cast, but knows to get to New York, knows exactly the hotel that they're in.
When he showed back up, my heart dropped because
Yeah,
I thought
we were done with them.
they broke his arm and he was gonna walk
Hmm.
off into the sunset and that was gonna be the end.
Yeah.
But when he showed back up, I was like,
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's terrible.
his goons have no purpose at all.
They're
Like
not even goons. They're just hungry. They're just
they're just
hungry
homies.
friends.
Yeah,
Just
they're just homies, right?
just
And then Isaac Hayes is there, and he really likes Sharon Leal, so he takes her. he,
that was weird,
yeah,
bro.
that like it just it's happening. It's
But
happening too fast.
here's what I do like. I do like the stuff that you mentioned before. Getting to New York, I like how they ended up in jail. I like the fact I understand the fact that Bernie left and then thought that Sam was dying and went back and broke him out. Like that
Hmm.
part I think fits into the buddy comedy road trip motif because you have
Hmm.
to have a big hang up right before
Hmm.
the big success, so it can't just be smooth sailing like where so I appreciate that. I appreciate Isaac Hayes to an extent because you're trying to solidify and qualify the movie with the era, and that's what
Hmm.
Isaac Hayes does. Yeah, but I don't fuck with Afion Crockett's character in this movie,
Yeah,
and I think Sharon Leal should have just also mailed into singing. Like she was trying too hard
I mean, I think
and it wasn't
again,
good.
the movie gets thrown off once we get to Tulsa, and
Okay.
then it becomes something else, like something different. Like when we get to Tulsa and Avion and his crew, just imbeciles, right? And so, and the movie didn't need that.
No, it wasn't that
It did.
movie. No.
It wasn't that movie, and so we get there and we get all of these extra motherfuckers that we don't need, like like him and that crew steal away from time where you could have made the middle of this movie the heart of this movie, which would have made the climax more important, right? The
Yeah.
relationship between, Sam Jackson and Sharon Leal, like to be such a big thing was really microwaved,
Yeah.
really, 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 really fast. And this is supposed to be quite the significant thing. I mean, the fact that Sam Jackson knew he had a daughter this whole time, and the fact that he had taken some of his pension and um,
A trust.
created a trust is a big deal that like they
Yeah.
treat it
Yeah.
like a little deal. Like even
Yeah.
Sharon Leal's explanation of like, yeah, like I get money from
I be
from
getting money from somebody.
from nowhere forever. Like these are really important things that the movie just kind of steps on. Like just steps on for no reason. We get the Afro white boy as the manager. Um,
I can accept that.
he was
I
good
can
enough.
accept him. Yeah.
He was good enough. He wasn't that bad. But ultimately, the movie, kind of the movie finishes with, Lewis reveals that he has a kidney stone, like he's not dying. They let these guys perform. The cops are literally at the side, but they let them
Yeah.
perform.
In the
And
wings. Yep.
then they're released on good behavior, and they're, touring. So they're touring. At the end of the movie, they're back to touring again. Their daughter is in on it. And Afro White Man is in on it too. On its face, Drew, the movie makes sense. The story is good enough, right? Like the script is good enough. These characters are believable. The movie really suffers from a questionable middle act.
Yeah.
Despite this, though, the movie is better than I remembered it after mostly forgetting it.
Yeah.
Um,
So you saw it back in the day.
I saw bits and pieces.
All right.
You know, I didn't see it the way I've seen most black movies. For this was literally the second time I watched it. And I don't
Gotcha.
even know if I count the first time I watched it.
Gotcha.
I just remember I was going through. I think this movie was on Prime. It was on Amazon
Yeah.
Prime.
That's where I
And
watched it. Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the library and going, Soul Men.
Huh.
Huh. Right. Soul Men. I do I
Yeah.
like Soul Men? Like,
Yeah.
and I remember being like, Soul Men. But I remember like looking for a memory of something to grab to, and I was going back into my memory banks, and I was like, I
Mhm.
can't find anything that
Yeah.
tells me what I think about this movie.
Yeah.
Like I can't find any memory, I can't find a meme, I can't find a running joke, I can't find an inside joke, I can't find anything. But I remember feeling like I liked this movie. And I remember going, and I like Bernie Mac,
Right. Right.
and I like Sam Jackson, and I bet you I remember liking them together. And so I was like, let me hop back in. And when I hopped back in, I actually remembered very little of the movie.
Mm.
So it was almost kind of like watching it for the first time. And then it goes back to all the questions that we kind of talked about at the beginning of this podcast, which is, what's up with this movie? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like, is it good? Is it bad? Why
Mhm.
is it so popular? Why did it bomb? Was it the marketing? Was it the studio? And so that's kind of like how I come up away from it. I come away from it like very confused as to like what I think about this movie.
I'm proud of him. When we were talking about how shaky the middle act was, for me, I was proud of how Sam and Bernie were able to keep it on track.
Mhm.
I think it's very easy, when you're in a play, when you're in a movie, for a bad actor or an actor giving a bad performance. I won't say Afion's a bad actor, but an actor
Mhm.
giving a bad performance to derail everybody else. Now, these two are such professionals that you wouldn't expect it to happen to them, but
Right.
sometimes it does. Even in the moments when Sam's character is confronting Afion's character, takes the gun from him, and he's roughing him up a little bit. I still believe Sam.
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? And that's hard to do. So, I appreciated it for that.
Are you an NBA fan? You watch a lot of
I
NBA?
am. I am. I do like the NBA.
This movie reminds me of Ben Simmons. Like Ben Simmons was supposed to be the next great NBA player.
Yeah, that dude
He was fast, he was tall,
jumped
he had
high.
handle, he was creative, he was good looking. Like he had all of the things. And so Ben Simmons gets drafted and he gets to playing, and you're like, one of these days, I know what I see, and I see
Right.
somebody that's supposed to be a great NBA player. It just hasn't happened yet. And maybe there's a pass or two or a dunk or so, but like he hasn't put together a full game. But when he does, he's
Right.
going to start. And then year after year after year goes by, and you're like, I don't think Ben Simmons is a great NBA player. Like I like
Yeah.
something, but I don't know why he isn't a
Yeah.
great NBA player. Like maybe he doesn't have it, he doesn't whatever. And so that same kind of like quizzical question mark of a thing is what I apply to Soul Men, which
Yeah.
is this movie looks like it should be one of our favorites. It's got like two of our favorite actors being niggas, right? Like,
100%. 100%.
cursing, ad libbing, like everything you like about Bernie Mac is
Yeah.
in this movie, right?
Yeah. Fucking white women.
Yeah, like a lot of the things you
Everything.
like about Samuel Jackson is in this movie. Yet and still, it's not delicious.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like who made the macaroni and cheese, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's something about this movie that isn't quite right, even though even though it looks and sounds and was enjoyable. But it's just like, even after watching it, I was like, I enjoyed this movie. I thought this movie was funny, and I'll probably go another 10 years
Yeah.
before I watch it again, if ever.
To your note, I mean, they do things that are not necessary.
Hmm.
Like, obviously, we discussed Afion and how his character was not necessary. But I'd do one better. I think them braids that your boy was right. That's not necessary. Like,
Yeah.
I get that you want to say that he lived a hard life. He went to jail. The man is still playing a 60-year-old.
Hmm.
Like to go out of your way to put him in obviously fake cornrows.
Yeah.
I had an acting teacher once that said like, once you don't believe one thing, the whole story
Mm.
falls apart. So if you're picking up the phone to dial somebody, you can't just go boop boop boop, boop hello, like because that's not how fast people answer the phone. You have to hit 7 buttons. You have to wait like you would normally
Hmm.
wait. Because as soon as you do
Hmm.
something that makes me go, that's not real, the
Yeah.
whole production falls apart. So like as soon as Sam shows up, and I'm like, man, they plastered these braids on him, and he rocks them. Little things like that. You're like, that's not a big deal, but it is. It
Yeah.
turns it into like a shtick, and it could have been better, even though it was good,
And Sam Jackson is not immune from this, because Sam Jackson has put on a couple of hair pieces throughout his career,
brother.
right? Like
He'll put some hair on.
he'll put some hair on. What was the movie that he did? Was it The Kingsman, where he played like he had a lisp?
No, oh maybe, but I was thinking about you remember Unbreakable?
Yes.
That man had a
Yeah, that was a joint.
that was a
That was a
raccoon.
joint.
That man had a raccoon on his head.
I'm trying to think. There was those Huntsman movies where
Uh,
he played the Kingsman movies, rather, not
Kingsman,
Huntsman,
yeah.
the Kingsman, and like he played kind of like he had like a lisp,
Yes, he had
and
a cane or something.
yeah,
You walk with a cane
yeah,
in those, yeah.
and it was just like, and it was that kind of decision that was just like, Sam Jackson, what you doing? You know what I mean?
Don't do
Like,
that.
you don't have
Yeah.
to do that, Sam
Yeah,
Jackson.
I
Like,
appreciate his Black Snake Moan hair and his Django hair.
yeah,
Like
Black
that's
Snake Moan, he was great. He was actually fantastic in Django, and he
yes.
was also really good in The Hateful Eight.
Oh, so good. I love the
Yeah.
Hateful Eight.
Yeah. It's when Sam Jackson is searching for the check, that's when, like, I think you could probably make this decision. This is a check movie for Sam. I think
Yeah,
Sam does like projects that he is super passionate about, and then he does the check movies.
yeah,
And there's not too many of the check movies that are really good.
yeah. Because he'll say, "Fuck y'all" if y'all don't enjoy it. Like I'm not.
Right.
I'm making 12 million. Like I don't give a shit if
Yeah.
y'all enjoy it or not.
I mean,
You know.
take a look at this. I'll do this really quickly. just really quickly before we
Yeah.
get to awards. I'll just go back to 2004, right?
Okay.
Sam does one, two, three, four, five movies in 2004. He does four movies in 2005. He
Yeah.
does four movies in 2006, four movies in 2007. Look at this shit. In 2008, he does one, two, three, four, five, six, seven movies in 2008. Mostly all of them are forgettable. In 2010, he does one, two, three, four movies in 2010. He does five movies in 2012. He does five movies in 2016. I mean, he does so many movies. Maybe that's the conclusion. Maybe Sam dialed it in. You
Well,
know, like maybe
I
Bernie was
think
cooking
I
and
think Sam was good. I
yeah.
think Sam was good. Here's what I'll say. Sam holds 2 records. He's earned the most money in Hollywood,
Mhm.
and he's brought the most money into the box office in Hollywood. And I
Right.
think Sam's mindset, he may never say it. So this is Andrew's thought on Sam, but it's if they giving away this money, I'm gonna take it.
Right.
If they
Right.
go, if they like, I'm not so in love with the art. I'm not Meisner trained, and like I'm not so
Mhm.
in love with the art that I'm only picking 5 projects in my career, and I'm just
Right.
like he's like if they giving away millions, like
I'm there.
I'm gonna just go get it,
Yeah. I'm
and
just I'm a worker.
and
Like
to
I like
hell
I
if y'all
I
like
work.
it, yeah,
Mhm.
and to hell if y'all like it or not, because who knows when they gonna stop giving me this money.
Mhm. And Tarantino don't work all the time,
And
right?
Tarantino don't work all the time, and black
Mhm.
men ain't called up by the droves to be given $1,000,000 checks in Hollywood. It's a
Yeah.
handful of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I don't
Mhm.
know, like I love the art, but I don't know that I'm so different from Sam in that if I had the opportunity to do 6 movies, like
Yeah.
I would just be doing six, and some of them
Just
shits would
work.
be bad, and some of them
Yep.
shits would be good. And
Mhm. Is what it is because 'cause I'm
it is
Sam
what it is.
Jackson.
Because I'm
Like
Sam
that's how good
motherfucking
I
Jackson.
am. I can do all the kinds of movies. I can do
Yeah.
good movies, I can do bad movies, it don't matter. I'm Sam Jackson. And
There's a guy
so
named Taylor Sheridan. Are you familiar with Taylor Sheridan?
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so he, got all the movie. He does all the Yellowstones. He's pretty much got Paramount Plus like locked up.
Right.
And Lioness is one of my favorite shows right now. And there's a new show called Landman with Billy Bob
Mhm.
Thornton as the lead character. And I'm seeing throughout Taylor Sheridan's shows, I've seen maybe like 6 people in like at least 3 shows that are on TV at the same time.
Yep.
And I'm like, you don't care that
Nope.
you just like you that's your boy, you gonna run him some
I'm putting
checks,
you on. Mhm.
and he is. So I'm like,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. All right, man. Let's get into some awards on this. MVP. Who's the MVP of Soul Man?
For me, it's gotta be Bernie. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it to Bernie just because he did everything in this movie. And I was happy. I enjoyed watching him after not watching him for so long. So that was a nice treat. But I was his comedy was refreshing. I was remembering how funny he was when he was with us, and he had some serious moments. I think he took the singing and the dancing seriously. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? He could have hammed that up and been corny with that, but he actually took that seriously. And this is Bernie, I feel like being in his acting bag. Like he's like, I'm a comedian, I'm funny, I do the haha, but I can act too. And
Yeah.
I think he really carried it when when everything was going to shit everywhere else. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I think he really carried it.
He was the workhorse of the movie, so I
He
agree.
was
He's
the
my MVP too.
Yeah, yeah. He took
Yeah.
us there when he was upset with Sam and
Mhm.
hurt that he found out he was the dad, and he took us. When he realized he needed his help, he took me everywhere
Mhm.
he wanted me to go. So
Yeah. I mean, Sam Jackson is the better actor, of course.
right,
But in this particular movie, Bernie Mac is the engine. This movie is not propelled by Sam Jackson's acting. This movie is propelled by what Bernie Mac does and Bernie Mac's believability and his humor and his improv and his lines. Sam Jackson is kind of a stick in the mud. The character doesn't do a whole lot, doesn't give a whole lot, doesn't offer a whole lot. And Bernie Mac does a great job of like filling in those gaps and getting us where we need to be. So I agree. Who's your LVP?
I mean, we shitted on the man so much, but I'm gonna say Afion. Um, I feel like none of that was necessary, and I feel like there's a way, and I don't even say the character. Like, yeah, we could have done without the character, but I feel like there's a way to bring that character to life
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's not sticky,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in a way that's not a shtick. And you could have done that. You could have sold the dope on the porch. You could have, been disrespectful in a way that was like, oh man, he really embodied that character. He's really out there acting.
Right.
And he did not do that. He just, you know, whatever the fuck that was. But
Yeah.
I also might be biased because I'm not a big, I don't like that type of acting. So,
Right. Right. For me, you know, even if I can come to the conclusion that Afion's character served a purpose, where they show up at Odessa's house and Odessa,
Odessa.
Odessa, and they meet Sharon Leal's character, and you know she has a bad news boyfriend. It's the goons that serve no purpose. It's the boys. They serve zero purpose for this movie.
Uh,
They're not intimidating. They don't do anything. They don't participate in anything. Like they're literally, and I like those guys. Those guys are good actors. Very
yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
But those particular characters are a waste of film. They
Yeah.
they add they add absolutely nothing to the story. They add nothing in support of Afion Crockett's character. They were completely unnecessary. And so they're my LVP. Like I thought about maybe getting it to like the label head, like the guy that was,
Yeah.
but ultimately he's the one that compels our main characters to get to New York to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
And he's the one that empowers our underling aspiring manager. So at least there he serves a purpose. But the homeboys, Afion's crew, uh waste of film.
I agree. And to my point
Upset by it.
earlier, I wonder if Afion takes the role more seriously, whether the goons follow suit. I wonder if Afion, well,
Hmm.
if we're ever scared of Afion, if
Yeah.
Afion's sitting in the car scheming on the old guys, and you're like, oh damn, like he might do something to her. At no point in time
Hmm.
was I like scared of Afion.
At all, ever.
You know what I'm saying?
At all. And it's because it's too popcorn. It's too
Too
like,
popcorn. Yeah.
again, he's not a real person.
Right. It's a
So
perfect way to
so
say it.
so when the real person doesn't show up in the movie, you're like, like I'm not threatened by you. I know you're not going to end up with the girl. I know you're going to end up, you know, shucking and jiving to the ER, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't belong in this movie.
Yeah.
Like be in a different movie where your ridiculousness
Mm,
pairs nicely with the ridiculousness of that movie, and then we
right.
can laugh at the ridiculousness and be like,
Right.
this is fucking awesome, right?
Right.
But in this particular movie, it's just like, oh, the movie's over. Like, like for me, I'm sorry, like it may sound harsh, but this movie is building equity with me. I'm
Yeah.
going, this movie is actually pretty good. Why isn't this movie more popular? And then we get to Tulsa, and I'm like, oh, you've mortgaged equity. Now I
Mm,
don't believe in anything
yeah.
because you've got these scenes and this character not acting like a real human being in front
Yeah.
of all of these other real human beings.
Yeah.
And so now, like, you stained it. And
Yeah.
so, from this point on, even when we get away from him, it's to your actual point. When we get away from him, I start to heal a little bit, but I go like all the things that happened while we were fucking around with Afion Crockett are supposed to pay off now. And they don't pay off the way they need to because they were all jumbled up in that shit. That discovery of who's Sharon Leal's dad,
Right.
and the health, and he's been paying for it all the time and all
Right.
of that, and now she's in Memphis and she's singing and she's living her dream. We don't even fucking know if it's her dream to sing.
She just got a piano.
She just got a fucking piano and she sings and she goes to Memphis, right? Like,
Uh,
and because we wasted all that time on that sucker shit, on that dumb shit, that like
yeah,
all of the thematic and narrative shit that needed to happen with that core people, we mortgaged that. And so then they try to pick it back up. They try to stick the landing, but they do it clumsily. And
yeah,
then Affion Crockett shows back up in this bitch,
man.
full body cast, dumbass goons, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm done. I don't care anymore. Like it was a good movie, but I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the difficult moment. How do we rank it in terms of fists?
Mm.
5 black fists to 1. How do you rank Soul Men?
I, I was struggling with this too
Yeah,
because I really enjoyed it. So my initial take was to just give it a 4. But I think about some of the other 4s I've given, and 4 is too high.
yeah.
But I don't want to like totally shit on it and be like it's a 2 because Bernie and Sam did a really good job. So I'm gonna go 3. I'm gonna put it
Mhm.
right in the middle
Yeah.
because those fellas really held it down. It was overlooked. They did try to throw it away, but the strength of those two characters and the skill there, I put it at a 3.
You nailed it, Drew, because this movie could fall from a 2 to a 4.
Yeah,
It could fall anywhere in between there, like a 2 and a 4.
yeah,
Some of the performances in this movie by Bernie Mac specifically could propel it to the 4 level, right?
yeah,
But it could also be like there could also be people that would be like, that movie's dumb as fuck, and
yeah,
it's whack. And again, we've gone through a whole hour of not fully being able to say what we think about this fucking movie. So I think a 3 is appropriate. I think a 3 is good because it's good enough,
yeah,
right? It's not a bad movie.
yeah,
It could have been a great movie.
yeah.
It's not an all-time classic.
No,
It bombed for a reason. It's
yeah,
forgettable for a reason, but that does not mean that it does not retain some value. And
yeah.
I think the value that it retains is makes it a 3, and I think that's appropriate.
There we go.
That's it,
I think,
right?
yeah, there we go. I think we agreed on mostly everything.
Yeah.
That's
I
like
mean,
that's first.
yeah, I
I like that.
well, I mean, I think because I think we both see this movie through the same, like, we see this movie, you see this movie as an actor and a performer and a writer. But you also see it with fresh eyes because this was your first time watching it. And
Right.
so I think the fact that like this was your first time watching it, this is my second time watching it, but we both kind of pulled away the same things, which is like we watch a lot of movies, we review a lot of movies, and we both kind of came to the same conclusions. I think it probably means, and we'll see what the comments say. I'm curious as what the comments say because again, like somebody's gonna be like, "What are y'all talking about? This movie was fantastic,"
Right.
and I'll never be able to trust that person again,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
what I need everybody to just agree to is that this movie is average at best. That this
Yeah.
movie actually, as good as it is an underachiever, right?
Yeah.
Because this movie
Yeah.
should have been a 4, could have been could based upon the talent in the movie
Yeah.
it should have been better. There are movies that are not as good as this movie, that have talent that is not as good as this talent. Like Class Act is a better movie than Soul Men.
Yeah. Agree.
And Class Act does not have better actors
No.
than the actors in Soul Men, but Class Act is a better movie, right?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a lot of movies that are like maybe not as funny, not as acclaimed, but like pulled off whatever the fuck they was trying to pull off better than Soul Men. And not to say
Yeah.
that Soul Men didn't pull it off, right? Soul Men is like Luther's curl. It just
Didn't quite.
didn't quite. it just didn't it just
Didn't
didn't
quite.
quite is what it is.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, man.
Right. Well, that's the show.
That's it. We did it.
That's so men. So appreciate y'all, man, for tapping in. Um December's coming. So I'm gonna put Drew through some holiday ringers.
Let's do it.
We're gonna do some shit in the holiday space. So ho ho ho. Welcome to December. I'm your host, Tone.
Amanda
That's your
Tyree.
boy, Drew. And thank y'all for tuning in for BlackBusters this week. We will see y'all next week. In the words of the Honorable Big Job, to the max. What do you think about my to the max? A little lighter, huh?
It was
He
a little
goes to
light.
the
It's all right. Yeah.
yeah. I don't want to do an impersonation.
No, it's
Anywho,
fine. It's
we'll see y'all next week.
fine.
Peace.
Peace.